Hey, so I'm back. I want to talk today about intention, about the power of intention. Most of us are excellent, albeit unconsciously in some cases, at setting intention when it comes to our careers, career pathing, or even education for that matter. We have an idea of what we want to do, and we start to take the steps towards achieving that goal. And most of us, with mindfulness, with honor, putting one foot in front of the other, we get there. We are not as encouraged to bring intention into every other aspect of our lives, into our personal relationships, into our marriages, partnerships, into the relationships we have with our bodies, eating, sleeping, that kind of thing, exercising. Intention is something that I believe separates those who get generally what they want out of life from those who don't. It separates those who believe that they live a life of purpose from those who don't. Intention is all about mindfulness. And mindfulness is simply the ability, or not so simply, the ability to focus on one thing on purpose and to keep the mind directed or focused on that one thing. It's also the ability to redirect the mind to something when the mind is pointed to or focusing on something that is eliciting negative response in the brain or the body or both. Mindfulness is paying attention. And so when we set an intention, it demands that we pay attention so that we start to take the necessary steps towards achieving the goal. Very often when I teach a class, whether it be meditation, whether it be yoga, whether it even be a lecture that I'm giving, what I'll do is I will, most cases, ask the students or the participants to set an intention, to ask themselves what they would like to get out of the experience. How would they like to feel during it? How would they like to feel after it? What would they like to walk away with? In most cases, when I'm giving a lecture or teaching or doing whatever, I have a clear intention. And I remind myself of that intention because I want to make sure that if for some reason I get distracted when I speak, which happens often, I can come back to my intention and that will redirect me. It'll bring me back to the path I need to be on so that I can convey what I need to convey as efficiently as possible and effectively as possible. Setting intention is something that needs to be done, I believe, every single day. In fact, it needs to be done many times during every single day. But for those who are not familiar with the practice of intention, what I typically suggest is that an intention be set every morning. That you get out of bed every morning and you set an intention for your day. Ask yourself what you want out of it. What kind of day do you want it to be? Or what kind of day do you want it to be? What I also like to talk to students about is the concept that if one is capable of setting an intention short term, it is usually that intention is usually indicative of an intention that that person has long term. So what that means is if you're, let's say, I don't know, going to do a fitness class, and your intention is to relax and maybe feel a little bit stronger afterwards, a little bit more connected to your body, that's probably indicative of an intention that you have longer term. Maybe to live a life of health, maybe to live a life of connection, to live a life of ease and well-being, to not be living a life of tension and contraction. Most of us do, and most of us are unaware that this is happening. The contractions that land in the body as tension, quote unquote, are directly associated to the things that we are living, to the moments that we are living, and how those moments get interpreted through the brain. And so, you know, I'll ask students, let's say at the beginning of a yoga class, to set an intention. And if they just want to, you know, have a moment of ease and peace, that's usually indicative that that's what they're looking for long term. If they are looking for some sort of answers to questions that they have that they're not finding any other way. That might mean that they are looking for some sort of connection to something bigger than them, bigger than themselves, some sort of spiritual connection, connection to forces greater than them, rather. For some people, they come to classes, they come to events, they come on retreats because these are opportunities to feel like they are part of something bigger than just them. They're lonely. They want to be amongst people who share intention. And so this perhaps is indicative of a long-term intention to be part of community, to live in community, to find accompaniment. If this is something that you have considered, if this is a way that you already live your life, fantastic. If this is not something that you have ever thought about in this languaging, in these words, then even better. I challenge you to start living a life of intention, to wake up every morning by setting an intention. Now, the timing of this lecture that I'm giving could not be better because I do have a book that's coming out in 12 days on November 14th, 2015, called A Year in the Light. Daily Spiritual Life Hacks, Intentions, and Reminders. Now, the reasoning behind me writing this book was conversely to the first book I wrote, The Examined Life, which was book form, chapters, paragraphs, all of that stuff. I wanted to offer a tool for people who wanted to do some of the work that we typically do with mindfulness, with spirituality, with how we show up in the world. And I wanted to make it a little bit more user-friendly. And so what I did was 365 pages, each page being one theme, one concept, one idea, one reminder, life hack, whatever you want to call it. But it is something that readers can bring out into their day, see if it applies, see if it makes sense, but nonetheless be mindful of that thing that they read, that page that they read earlier that morning, and all of a sudden there's something to focus on. All of a sudden, there's the lighthouse, the bookmark, the street lamp guiding their way, as opposed to them simply being pulled into every single direction at the mercy of their thoughts. We are at the mercy of our thoughts constantly. Our mind wanders, usually gets pulled into the most anxiety-provoking aspects of our existence. And it does that over and over and over again. And so we just sort of follow it blindly. We get yanked by it. And that doesn't usually bring us to where we want to be. In fact, it usually brings us in the opposite direction, to where we don't want to be. And when we find ourselves where we don't want to be, the bridge that gaps the distance between where we don't want to be and where we do want to be seems unattainable, impassable, undoable. And so hopefully what I can do in my lifetime with the classes that I teach and the retreats that I give and the books that I write and the lectures that I offer is help bridge that gap a little bit. Intention has everything to do with that. Mindfulness has everything to do with that. And so, give it a go. Start now. Ask yourself what you want out of the rest of your day. See if you get it. And then try and make this a morning practice, with or without A Year in the Light. One piece of advice: when you do set an intention, try and state that intention as a statement of fact in the present tense, instead of it being an abstract statement. Instead of saying, I want to be happy or I'd like to be happy, state, I am happy. And keep coming back to that statement throughout your day. I want to be part of community versus I am a part of community. I want to be comfortable in my body versus I am comfortable and appreciate the body that I find myself in. Set your intention as a statement of fact in the present tense and see how effective that can be. Thanks very much for listening. See you next time.